So a couple of weeks ago, I interviewed Kathy Wagenthal, the Conservative MP who introduced this private member's bill to ban sex-selective abortion. And, of course, was met with the predictable derision in the mainstream media. A columnist with the Globe and Mail referred to this as, I guess, an example of the stinking albatross around the neck of the Conservatives. They have such contempt, of course, for social conservatives. And so we're going to speak with the co-founder of Right Now. He's an anti-abortion activist, defender of the unborn, Scott Hayward. Welcome to the program. How are you?
Thank you, Richard. Thank you for that introduction.
My pleasure. So we just have a couple minutes here before we break away, but we'll continue to talk after the break. I just wanted to get your sense of, the chances of this bill going anywhere in our current parliament, this sex-selective abortion ban.
Well, unfortunately, there probably are not enough pro-life members of parliament in the House of Commons currently to pass the legislation, which is why our organization was founded 5 years ago. A little over that now. In the 2015 election, there were 80 pro-life members of parliament that had ran for re-election, and only 40 got re-elected. So we knew that we kept doing the same things over and over again, the pro-life movement, we weren't going to win. Since that time, we've been able to elect at least 70 pro-life members of parliament. So the bill will see more votes come its way in this parliament than last parliament, but we still probably have a few election cycles to go before we get close to passing, but we're well on our way. And this piece of legislation is important. It's an issue that happens in Canada. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of sex-selective abortions, unfortunately, that occur every.
Oh, did we lose? We dropped out there. Scott, are you with us?
We're good now, yeah. And even if the bill does not pass, it does give us an indication, both within the Conservative Party of Canada and within other political parties, which members of parliament are on board and which ones we need to replace with pro-life members of parliament in the upcoming election.
My understanding is, based on the polls that I've seen, that most, even pro-choice people, would be in support of banning sex-selective abortion, and many feminist groups, of course, also on board. So why? I'll leave this as a rhetorical question. We'll pick this up on the other side. Why is the mainstream media and our politicians so out of step with ordinary Canadians? This is the question that Scott Hayward posed in a recent op-ed piece, I guess, with True North, and we'll pick this up on the other side. Back with more of the Richard Syrett Show. Don't go away.
Back to the conversation on the Richard Syrett Show. News Talk, Saga 960 AM.
Hey, welcome back. Scott Hayward stays with us, the co-founder of Right Now. We're talking about a private member's bill to ban sex-selective abortion. And Scott, let me just crib here from this Globe and Mail column from Conrad Yakubuski. You also referred to it in your article. He writes, anti-choice groups claim to be acting in the name of gender equality, though their ultimate goal of banning abortion and depriving all women of a fundamental right shows this claim to be disingenuous. And of course, the article was entitled, Tory MP's bill to ban sex-selective abortion is the stinking albatross Erin O'Toole was warned about. Your thoughts on Yakubuski's article?
Well, there's a lot of strong words there, and there's a lot of opinions given in Mr. Yakubuski's article without any data to back it up. So to claim that it's disingenuous for Member of Parliament Kathy Wagenthal to bring forward this private member's legislation for it to be supported by multiple women in the House of Commons and to be supported by the only female candidate in the last Conservative Party of Canada leadership race, the candidate who won the most amount of votes, though not points, on the second ballot. All of these women to claim that they're being disingenuous about protecting and enshrining in law women's rights, particularly when it comes to preborn girls, I think is the height of hypocrisy and gaslighting. When it comes to the quote-unquote sticking albatross within the Conservative Party of Canada, it's pro-lifers that make up a good number of the volunteers, the donors, and most importantly, the voters for the Conservative Party of Canada right across the country. The only time that the Conservative Party of Canada won a majority in its current iteration, when it was founded in 2003, was in the 2011 federal election. And that was also the only time, by the way, Richard, and your viewers, of course, across the GTA will know this, that they won a majority of I don't know about majority of the votes, but they won a majority of the ridings within the GTA, especially the 28 ridings that surround the city of Toronto proper. And ever since that time, the party hasn't been able to win those back. And one of the big reasons is because in the 2011 election, it was the only time that the Conservative Party of Canada had any sort of pro-life policy, and that's when Stephen Harper promised to defund abortion overseas. Now, I'm not obtuse enough to say that that was the only reason why they won the majority of those seats, but I'm also not ignorant enough to say that wasn't a major reason. So, there's a lot of opinions given in that article with very, very little fact to back it up.
Right, you're right. This is, an issue that the Conservative Party, the so-called Conservative Party, continues to grapple with. What to do with their social conservative members, which they have great disdain for, and yet they seem to think that if they can somehow, ignore them or jettison from the party, that through the miracle of addition through subtraction, they'll somehow, cobble together a victory in the next election. But social conservatives, as you say, they tend to be the big donors. They volunteer the most. They're very active in the party. They're not going anywhere. Maybe the Red Tories should think about leaving and joining the members opposite. But let me ask you about getting back to this sex-selective abortion. My understanding is, Scott, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but aside from North Korea, we're the only jurisdiction in the entire world that allows this. Even communist China has banned the practice.
That's right. Actually, we're the only country besides North Korea that has no law federally or provincially whatsoever to regulate abortion. It's been that case since 1988. And the interesting thing was in the Morgentaler case of 1988, it was a 5-2 decision. Only 7 of the 9 justices of the Supreme Court of Canada ruled on it. And all 7 justices said that Parliament has some sort of responsibility to enact some sort of legislation to regulate abortion. In fact, the very first female justice of the Supreme Court of Canada, Madam Justice Bertha Wilson, said that it's absolutely the rights and prerogative of Parliament to consider the rights of the fetus in legislation at some point during the pregnancy. And since then, Parliament has not responded to the Supreme Court of Canada. So we're in a weird situation in Canada where abortion is neither legal or illegal. It's just the law is silent on it. So legally, there's nothing stopping a woman to get an abortion right up to the birthing process. And in this country, late-term abortions do happen, though not super common. They do happen and quite rare in pregnancy. So, when you poll Canadians on these issues, most Canadians are going to say that they're pro-choice. But when you actually ask them about specific policy points, whether it be late-term abortion, sex-selective abortion, pain capability abortions, the majority of Canadians are on side of this legislation. It's a huge opportunity for the Conservative Party of Canada to win some votes, not only to entice and to engage with a big portion of the party's existing base, but definitely to reach out to Canadians who don't typically vote, particularly within the GTA. We're talking ridings in Mississauga, Oakville, Brampton, Ajax, Oakville, where new Canadian communities, typically religious, so Sikhs, Hindus, Eastern Catholics, Eastern Orthodox, Oriental Orthodox, that don't typically vote in the last election, which you can see in the data, poll-by-poll data within the ridings from the last election, because no one's really talking about their top issues, which include this. They're just votes left on the table. And the longer the Conservative Party of Canada does this, the more opportunity it gives for when the Liberal Party eventually has a new leader, and they might change their policy on this. And, it could keep the Conservatives out of government for an entire generation.
All right, Scott, we'll take another time out, come back and discuss further. Scott Hayward is co-founder of Right Now. Back with more of the Richard Syrett Show right after this.
You're listening to the Richard Syrett Show on Newstalk Saga 960 AM.
Scott Hayward stays with us from Right Now, anti-abortion crusader, defender of the unborn, talking about a private member's bill to ban sex-selective abortion, which I think by and large gets the support of most Canadians, even those who would count themselves among the pro-choice crowd. And yet this is unlikely to pass. Certainly Justin Trudeau will not. I believe his Liberal colleagues will not be allowed a free vote on the issue. And even Erin O'Toole, the leader of the Conservative Party, so-called, Scott, is on record as saying he will not support such a bill. Your thoughts on Erin O'Toole? Are you surprised, disappointed?
Unfortunately, I'm not surprised that he's not voting for it. The interesting thing about Erin O'Toole and his voting record in the House of Commons as a member of Parliament for almost the last 10 years is that when it comes to the issues of abortion and assisted suicide, thus far, he actually has a 100% pro-life voting record in the House of Commons. So this bill is likely to see a second reading vote sometime toward the end of this month, beginning in June, provided that Parliament doesn't dissolve or rise before then. And so it'll be interesting to see if he actually follows through on that. He probably will, and it'll be unfortunate that he smirches his otherwise perfect pro-life voting record. But it is party policy. It is within the party policy declaration of the Conservative Party of Canada. It's been in there for almost 10 years. It's supported by a vast majority of members of the party, voters of the party. It's actually supported by a majority of 2019 voters, according to our polling back in the autumn, for the Liberal Party of Canada. In fact, 61% of those who voted for the Bloc Québécois in 2019 said that they would be more likely to vote for a political party that promised to legally restrict sex-selective abortion. So if you're trying to win votes in Quebec, if you're trying to win votes in Ontario, particularly in the GTA, and if you're trying to win votes among women, and the same poll said that 47% of women ages 18 to 34 would be more likely to vote for a political party that promised to legally restrict sex-selective abortion compared to 6% who said they'd be less likely to do so. I mean, these are all constituencies that the Conservative Party Canada needs in their voter universe in order to win a majority government. And this bill, which is just an innately good bill, is also a great political opportunity for them. And Erin O'Toole and the leadership team is just leaving votes on the table on this issue. So it's really disappointing to see. It's very frustrating. But, leaders come and leaders go, and we're focused on the fight going forward every election cycle.
Well, they read the same polls, surely, that you and I do, Scott. What is the thinking here? Are they afraid of the blowback from the extreme left in the mainstream media? People like Yakubuski?
Well, it's interesting because there are different writers out there in the mainstream media that do talk about this, that have talked about it in the past, and saying that is an issue that should in some way be addressed by Parliament, whether it's through regulation provincially or legislation provincially or federally. It does need to be addressed. So even amongst the commentariat, if you want to call it that, within the mainstream media, you do find some support. You find some support amongst people, like you said, that identify as pro-choice. You find support in areas that you might not think of. A lot of people think of pro-lifers as, just these radical Christians. But, in this country, only 20% of Canadians go to religious services every week, provided, we don't have COVID-19 restrictions. Yet 84% of Canadians support this legislation. So where do the other 64% come from? Well, you have United Sikhs of Canada that are supporting this legislation. You have the Vedic Hindu Society of BC supporting this legislation. So in terms of why Erin O'Toole and the leadership team is not supporting this legislation, I don't know if it's because they don't know how to talk about abortion in a reasonable and popular fashion, even though we have reached out to him and his leadership team ever since he ran for the leadership over a year ago to help him out on this. I don't know if it's just an admittance of the people who have worked for many years, sometimes in some cases decades, within Party HQ, the Conservative Party of Canada, and the Office of Leader of the Opposition, that have to admit that their advice for the last 10, 20, 30 years has been completely and utterly wrong, which would probably be a very big pill to swallow. I don't know what it is, but it's not sustainable. And, the party membership is not going to be supportive of this going forward for very much longer, I don't think. Like, something needs to move. We need to have, as a party, the party needs to have some sort of reasonable policy on abortion. And until that happens, we're just not going to be in contention for government as a political party.
Well, don't you think that the pro-life contingent within the Conservative Party, the grassroots members, have been used by the Conservative Party? They are used. They take your money. You show up. You vote for at the policy convention, but nothing changes. It's all about raising money, because unless you change, I guess, the constitution of the party, which, would force Erin O'Toole, as you say, this is party policy, but he's in charge, as he's made quite clear, nothing is ever going to change. Don't you feel that you're being used and abused by the party, and by extension, are there some maybe even pro-life organizers that are using and abusing the grassroots by taking their money, but not really going after the change that needs to be made? And that's not at the policy convention, but at the constitutional convention, or at the constitutional level.
You could probably say yes on both of those cases, like that people would feel that way. I don't know if it's true in either of those cases. One thing I'll say is, for the last 45 years, the pro-life movement in this country has not been all that effective and intelligent and efficient when engaging in politics. And in the last 5 years since our organization was founded, we've been able to add an extra 150 pro-life politicians to various legislatures across this country, net. So we're moving forward, and it's a process, and it's going to take time. And it's about engaging pro-lifers within the grassroots of not just the Conservative Party of Canada, but other political parties going forward, to ensure that they're taking their rightful place. They're taking their rightful place in the EDAs and in the National Council, and eventually in the leadership of these political parties.
All right, Scott, got to run, but thank you so much for your time. I hope we'll speak again. Scott Hayward from Right Now. Appreciate your time.
Thanks so much, Richard. Have a great day.